Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here to review a fan request. Well, actually do another fan request video, because although yesterday's video was not a movie review, it still counts as a fan request, which was fun. It made me really want to do a top 10 best and worst TV seasons of all time, just so that I could set the record straight. But anyways, this movie that I'm reviewing is called Route 666. And for starters, I would never have watched this movie probably on my own just because of the cover. The cover of this movie looks really trashy, and it looks really like it doesn't look good. You know, the cover looks like somebody puked all over the actual poster. Like, let's look it up. Because I swear, it's like, yeah, like, it looks terrible. It's like you had a good poster, you had a decent kind of poster, although it doesn't really tell you what the movie's about. It has some cool elements to it. But it is so early 2000s looking by this shitty ass poster, this ugly like early 2000s font with the white lettering and the red glow on the outside of it, and then with the 666 sign with like the spray painted 6 in the middle, and the this poster is terrible. And it does such a disservice to the movie. I mean, it really is like one of the worst movie posters I've ever seen. Oh, here's a better poster. There's one with like him and then his dad, and it's kind of like a diagonal perspective, and everything is kind of angled. That looks a lot better. Still looks kind of trashy though. It's like, what is this movie about? Like, is it just about this one guy and these people on the road, and why is there like storming in the sky? There's like a purple fart storm in the sky. That doesn't make any sense. And then on top of that, they say that Lori Petty is the co-star of the movie, which is bizarre because they don't even have Mr. X from the X-Files on the poster, like next to Lou Diamond Phillips. It's Lou Diamond Phillips, Lori Petty, and that's it. And it's like, that's totally like false. Like, it should be Lou Diamond Phillips, then Mr. X, then Lori Petty. It shouldn't be like just leaving his name out completely. So I really didn't like that. The movie itself, so just for starters, the poster sucks. I mean, the poster is so bad. And obviously the poster is not the movie, but the point I'm trying to make is that the movie was already starting off on the wrong foot due to the terrible poster. And so people should keep that in mind too, is that whenever you make something, the poster is always just as important as the movie itself. It should never be something where, you just are like, okay, whatever, the poster, just make some generic early 2000s poster. It should be a very, very controlled thing, and it should be really good. Like, I'm thinking about The Godfather and posters where they were looking at choosing these terrible posters that would have completely made people not want to see the movie. And then I'm looking at this poster and it's like, see, I bet this movie didn't do very well because people saw this poster and they were like, hell no, I'm not watching this awful looking. Seriously, it's like somebody puked all over a poster. It's like, what if somebody just threw up and just smeared their vomit all over a poster and said, hey, look, it's my special poster that I made. Or like maybe if somebody was protesting, like maybe if somebody didn't like certain elements of the movie, they're like, this movie is offensive and meh, 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 meh. You know, you could just imagine somebody protesting Route 666 by throwing up all over the poster. Oh, no. Do you know what it's like? It's like with those fucking retarded bitches in the UK who took a can of tomato soup and they threw it all over like one of those paintings, classic paintings, so that they could protest like the oil used in the paintings or some dumbass shit. Like these fucking vegan bitches, they're the worst. Like they're almost even worse than feminazis. That's what this looks like. Like, what if those vegan girls, those ugly ass bitches, what if they came up to the Route 666 poster and just threw their gross tomato soup all over the poster? So, now that we've established that the poster's trash, let's get into the let's get into the actual movie, because that's what's important here. The poster's really not important, except I just wanted to point that out because that's the thing that immediately jumped out to me. It made me sort of hesitant to watch the movie, even though I knew that, like, you had these really good actors. It's a horror movie. The plot sounds like it's a ton of fun. Really don't want to watch it because of that poster. So, the movie's all about, you have Mr. X from the X-Files, and he is playing this mafia accountant who quit, and he's on the run because he doesn't want to testify, or I don't know, like, was he gonna go to prison because he was gonna, rat out on his former bosses, his former mafia bosses? So, it's a question of, like, why didn't he, I guess because he would be considered a rat, but at the same time, like, he's still on the run anyway. Like, they don't want him to testify, and so that, they all know he's a rat regardless. So kind of strange. He's in this bar, and automatically, the thing about Mr. X in this movie especially, as soon as you see him, I kind of thought he would just be a tourist. Like, I thought, there's no way that he is supposed to be like some sort of a mafia accountant person. Like, if anything, he'd probably be, he probably looks like he could play more of an enforcer character. I don't think that Lou Diamond could have played an accountant either. I think that one of the other people in the film would have looked more like an accountant type of a person. He looks like a bartender too. And it's funny because he was in a movie earlier this year where he did play a bartender. And so I thought it was funny that, the movie starts off in a bar and he's just sitting there, and it's like, bro, it's like this guy, he looks exactly like he could just be a bartender forever. He's got this like Hawaiian shirt, and he just looks totally like a bartender type character. He does not look like the character that he's supposed to be playing. And so that was already, like, kind of weird. And there's a lot of little weird quirks about this movie that kind of make it worth talking about, in terms of, I wish that I had done a commentary on the film, because I think that it would have made for, like, the perfect commentary, maybe, like, with the right people. Because I do think it would probably take someone more than me, like me and a couple other people, to commentate, because for the most part, we'll get to, some of the problems with the movie. One of the main problems is that for a lot of the movie, these big chunks of the movie are just these talking scenes, of just long scenes of, like, people going back and forth as they're on this supposedly dangerous area, this dangerous road, and it just kind of makes you like, Like you're waiting for the action to happen, even though it's supposed to be a horror movie. So you're supposed to be scared, and that didn't really work in this case. So for starters, right off the bat, Lou Diamond Phillips and Lori Petty, they walk into the bar, and that sounds like a joke. That sounds like so and so walks into a bar. Well, that's exactly what it was like, and I don't know if it was like purposefully like goofy like that, but they were such a terrible couple. Immediately you knew that there was something off. You knew that, like, okay, they're not a real couple. But then things get super weird because Lou Diamond follows Mr. X into the bathroom. And this is just one of many, like, quirks with the movie where, like, for some reason they will not let Mr. X go to the bathroom. Like, he keeps on having to go to the bathroom, and they keep on going in there, and so he doesn't want to go because that happens. When people stand behind you, you don't want to go at all. It automatically stops, and so Lou Diamond comes in there, and he squirts some soap in his eyes and everything, and then handcuffs him, and that was just one of the many weird things in this movie, of like just weird little things of like kind of reminiscent of a Stephen King movie in that way, and the way that like you have all these little weird eccentric plot choices, like, and so then probably the worst scene in the movie in my opinion, because I did like this movie, but it started off kind of iffy, like kind of on a rocky road type place, because you had this terrible sequence where they're having a shootout with the Mexican mob, or no, not the Mexican mob. Why did I think Mexican? I don't know what kind of the mobs, whatever, the Italian mobs, some mob, the Buffalo Wild Wings mob. They said something about buffalo, so the Buffalo Wild Wings mob. You had the Asian Zing mob, and you had the Caribbean Jerk mob. Those are my two favorite flavors. No, wait. Honey barbecue and Caribbean Jerk. They're having this little showdown, and the way that they shot this movie was like a 2022 indie movie. It reminded me of like Amityville Karen, the way that like they're just shaking the camera around, and it was weird because I thought, this is the early 2000s. Movies aren't supposed to look this bad in the early 2000s, but wow, it looked terrible in this sequence where it's just shaky and shaky and shaky, and there's like hardly little to no blood coming out of the bad guys as they get shot, and it just was so terrible, and I was like, ugh, is this what the movie's gonna be? And I was really upset. I was like, oh, I don't want to watch this, even though it was only an hour and 30. So then they get in the car. You have Lori, Lou Diamond, and Mr. X. Well, actually, Lori is in the other people's car at first. And so that's another thing, is there are other agents. And I hesitate to call them agents, because they don't really act like proper federal agents at all. Like, they just do the stupidest things, and like two of them are like starting to have sex. They're like starting to climb in the back of their car, and they're having sex with each other for no reason. And it's like, what the hell are they doing? And then there's this other one, and I would say he was probably the best agent out of the generic Expendables. He came up to these gravestones, and he just started like shit talking all these gravestones, and just going like, oh yeah, that guy deserved to die, that guy deserved to die, and you knew that he was going to die right then and there, because that, especially in a horror movie, that you never do that in a horror movie. But then he's drinking, he's like sipping on tonic water, and then he's fighting Lou Diamond Phillips because he's related to one of the people on the gravestones. And I thought, these are the worst agents in history. Like, they are terrible. Like, it's really funny, and it's really, like, goofy, but, entertaining, I will say. So basically, they need to get him to court by a certain time the next day. And it's weird because Mr. X has this map where it shows like the old map of where there's this other road that they closed off for reasons. And you know that the reasons are evil, generic evil. And you don't go on that road. Well, what do they want to do? They want to go on that road. It's a shortcut. And so instead of just dealing with these guys, they want to go on this little shortcut road where it's been closed off for years. They don't know if there's dangers there. They don't know what's there. That was another stupid decision. Mr. X is literally the only one in the whole group who says don't go down that road, and they just keep on just ignoring him. And I was like, these people are stupid. And I thought, this is classic horror movie things where it's in a horror movie, the characters have to make the stupidest decisions possible just to make sure that the plot can happen. However, it was a good idea, in my opinion. I did really like the concept of, Route 666 is a great title all by itself, but then just the concept of having to take this guy down like a shortcut for some reason, down this road that's been closed down, it sounds like it could be a great film, a great horror film. So they're going down the road, and already they make a stop. They make a stop at the gravesite, and so Lou Diamond can go there and look around. And you guys see what I mean by how most of the movie is just like this talking, just like this kind of walking around and talking type thing. And then you get these little bursts of ooh, a horror movie. And it's pretty funny, just these short bursts where the camera starts shaking, and it's the cameraman is just so excited that he just can't contain his excitement. And that behind the camera he's going ee! He's very, very excited to be filming these high quality horror movie scenes where you see these zombies. So I'm getting ahead of the plot, the very smart plot. It is very entertaining regardless. I would say that this movie, despite its flaws, I did enjoy it, and so keep that in mind, because I know it could sound like I'm trashing this movie. It's just that there's a lot of bad things in it, which happens a lot of the times on this channel, is that I'll list hundreds and hundreds of things that I thought, that's trash, that's stupid, and then at the end I'll say, but I liked it, I thought it was good. So they stop at this graveyard, and immediately you have this kind of weird plot where Lou Diamond, he's related to one of the people who died on this road in a chain gang. They were, I guess, doing work on the road or something, and they all got killed mysteriously, and you just know at one point you're gonna see the whole flashback. I knew, at one point you're gonna see this flashback where something dark happened, and you feel bad for them, and they're gonna be the zombies. And I just thought, but before that, though, this movie, one of the issues that it had was that it was very on the nose. in terms of it really didn't trust you to think for yourself, which was weird because there were certain points in the movie where I wished that they did tell me why these decisions were made, you know? Like, it was kind of weird. But there was this one part where Mr. X says, "What do you guys want me to call you, Mulder and Scully?" And I just thought, oh, like, oh, I get it. It's because it's X-Files. Oh, like, just very, very bizarre. Like, that was a terrible line. I was like, you know, did you really have to do that? Like, did you? And let's see, like, because this movie came out in 2001, and didn't the X-Files end in 2001, the original series? Because that would make it even more cringeworthy, because it's like they're trying to connect. Yep. 2001 to 2002 was the final season of The Good X-Files. Wow. You know, you know, movies do this sometimes. They try to connect to relevant things at the times, and then in 20 years, people go, huh? You know, like with the Corona Zombies movie, you know, that movie's going to be totally irrelevant yesterday. And, you know, movies like that where it's like they make these little references that just fall flat on their face. And so they have one little reference like that. But then this was the part that really pissed me off, because it was so on the nose, it just made me want to throw up. We see the tombstone. It has La Roca, which is Lou Diamond's last name in the film. And we assume, as the audience, that this is probably the grave of his dad or his brother. And instead of letting this be like an obvious, oh no, instead of making this obvious, I mean, instead of letting this, like, just, you know, you don't need to say, because then what happens is Lori Petty, she walks over, and Lori Petty is one of the worst things about the movie, just because she kind of feels pretty useless. She comes over and says, "Ooh, your father," and then she just walks by. And it's like, what the fuck? That was not needed. And if that wasn't enough, after that, the drunken agent comes over, and he starts ranting and raving, and he says, like, over and over again, La Roca, your father, La Roca, your father." And it's like, God, does he think the audience is this retarded that, like, we can't even, like, we already figured that out a million years ago, and you're still, like, going on and on about, it's your father, it's your father, it's your father. And I was like, God, shut up. And then they start having this fight, and it's so bizarre because Lori Petty, it's like she's standing there, like, I swear to God, guys, like, let's look up, like, what is... Because I swear, I know she looks like this now, like, but did she always look like a teenage boy that hasn't hit puberty yet? Like, let's see, like, no, not at all. Let's see, like, what's the... Oh, God, she really let herself go. It's like she's standing there, and God, I can't believe that she would do that to herself. Like, oh, that's terrible. So she's standing there, and it's like she's waiting to hit puberty. It's like she's standing there waiting for the sun to hit her in the right way so that she'll grow a couple of inches and get hairs on her chest. Because like, she really serves no purpose in this movie whatsoever. Like, she only slightly becomes the love interest to Mr. X a little bit, like it, but it's not even really fully committed to. You know, she's really kind of useless. Like, she doesn't do very much of anything in this movie except for, like, have little witty remarks and just kind of do, like, a typical, like badass female character type of thing from the early 2000s. Like, I really felt like her character could have been improved on. Most of all the other, well, the sheriff was trash too. But most of all the other characters were they were pretty good. Or they're just, but what really ruined her character for me was the fact that these guys are fighting, they're punching each other out. This is not a good thing. This is very unprofessional. And to be fair, Lou Diamond is just defending himself, but they're standing there tussling and wrestling with each other. And what does this federal agent do? Does she stop them? Does she, make some smarty pants remark while she stops them and she pulls them apart? No. She doesn't shoot her gun up in the air and make some remark like you'd think, whenever you, in a movie, when you have the two good guys fighting and you have a third good guy, you always have to have this thing where they shoot their gun up in the air and they say, hey, stop fighting each other. Instead of doing that, she stands there and she says, hey, you guys got guns, why didn't you shoot each other? Like, just, oh. Like, that was the moment that doomed her character. Like, it was already bad enough with the, ooh, your father. That was already trash enough. But then she had to do that, you guys got guns, why don't you just shoot each other? Like, Lori Petty, why don't you reach puberty? How about that? And so then another thing that was weird in the movie that happened was Lori Petty at a certain point, she was riding with the other agents, but when they got to Route 666's entrance, it was so weird because all of a sudden she goes up to Lou Diamond and she says, I've always wanted to ride in one of those types of cars. And then he's like, what's really funny? I know that you've always wanted to ride in those types of cars. And it's like, oh. And that's most of the movie is just like these smarty little back and forths of people going, and then the other person goes, like these just little cutesy like back and forths, which I don't mind because they were entertaining, but still it was kind of like, it was puzzling. Like that's the one word to describe this movie. Like, even though there's a lot of great stuff about it, the one word to describe the experience is puzzling. But for some reason, Lori Petty rides with Mr. X and Lou Diamond Phillips on Route 666. And as an audience member, you're thinking, wait a second, I know the reason why they're doing this. They're doing this because Lori Petty is a part of the main cast. And so they're separating the main cast who are going to survive from the Expendables, the generic agents who are just all going to die. And so that was like just, ugh. I was like, what? They're really doing this? Like, they're just going to separate and, you know that they're going to survive and they're going to die. I was like, okay, whatever. So then I gotta say, like, the movie took a turn for the better when the zombies finally came out. So what happened was the zombies came out in the road, and another thing that I really liked were there were multiple situations where Mr. X was handcuffed, and it was like these really intense life or death situations where people were trying to kill him, including these zombies, and he couldn't do anything because he's handcuffed. And I really love that. I thought that if done better, that could have been, a highlight of the film, is seeing these these little encounters, but instead they were just kind of these little encounters. They weren't really drawn out to show the true suspense of the scenes. at what the scenes would be. And that's a general problem with the movie, is that for all the great stuff in the movie, like there's so many great things, and the majority of the great things is just the zombies themselves. Like the zombies in this movie are probably some of the coolest zombies I've ever seen. We'll get to that, but a general problem is that you don't really ever feel much suspense in this movie, and you don't really feel much horror in this movie. You don't feel scared. And so it was kind of a problem at certain points that, like, this is supposed to be a horror movie, and I don't really feel scared. You know, I just kind of feel like, it's moving along. It's moving along. You know, like, I didn't feel scared, like, oh no, like, I hope they don't go there, or I hope that doesn't happen. You know, I didn't really feel that. And so I thought that that was a problem. And the main reason why I didn't feel that, not only because of the writing, but because of the music. After all the, like, little complaints, I guess you could say they're complaints, just little critiques, the one critique that I really, really would say is the primary reason for why this movie is not a great movie is because of the music. The music in this movie, oh, it is some of the worst music I've heard all year. Like the score, the original score for this movie, it's just like, dun, dun, dun. And it's just so casual, and it's so, like, it's so laid back, and it's like, this is not the music that should be playing in this scary horror thriller zombie movie on the road in the middle of this, you know, really beautiful desert landscape. You know, the setting is really, really good, and they're wasting this setting. You know, you can't really, and they're wasting the characters, they're wasting the villains, because you can't feel any of that horror, because it's just all drowned out by the music being so casual. Like, you know, just think about, what if you had the shower scene in Psycho, and what if you replaced the music with, what do they call it? Let's look it up. Let's look up a royalty free, because, you know, whenever you hear royalty free, that's an immediate red flag. Chill music, that's what they call it, chill music, like royalty free chill music. You know, you look this up, you see like the chilled beats, like joyful chill, no copyright, free background music, upbeat summer travel beach vlog, Island by Shander. I mean, just talk about trash music. That's the music that's in this movie, and it's like, just imagine playing that music over the shower scene in Psycho. It just makes me want to cry. So that's a big problem. But then the zombies come out, and they're so violent and they're so bloody. The kills in this movie were really good. You know, they didn't have very much of a budget to do very many things, in terms of, you know, there weren't really any over-the-top deaths in terms of, like, head splitting, chopping a person in half. But with what they had, they did a really, really good job. The kills were so bloody and so good and so fun, and I hesitate to say the word fun in association with killing, because it's a movie. And in particular, the thing that it reminded me of two things. Number one was an arcade game. And this whole movie, in fact, the aesthetic, is the fan who requested the film, they said that they really liked the aesthetic of the movie. And I would agree. I think that the aesthetic of the movie was really, really good in terms of, it felt like Mortal Kombat, the arcade game. It felt like Resident Evil, the arcade game. One of those arcade games where you see a setting and you see these gray zombies and they just don't have any life in them, and they're just so gray and so dried out, and there's all this blood that squirts all over the screen as you shoot them with the little glowing targets. Like that's what this movie reminded me of. And as well, it reminded me of Rob Zombie. In a good way. It reminded me a lot of, like, what if Rob Zombie directed a zombie movie? Like, I bet he would have made a lot worse choices based on some of the movies he's made. But in terms of, like, the villains were just so over the top, just kill, kill, kill. Like, the first kill, they spent like an entire minute just drilling and drilling through this guy's stomach and just blood squirting everywhere. And I almost wanted to start clapping, like good job. I love it whenever I see in a horror movie, I see violence in a horror movie. It just makes me so happy that I can feel like I'm watching an actual horror movie and not like a modern horror movie, quote unquote. So, after this little encounter, they ride off and they go to this gas station in the middle of nowhere, and now their tires are melted off, and they don't have any food or any water. They could just walk, but they don't have any other way. So it would literally be like Bagman and Better Call Saul, where they're just trudging through the desert, and they don't have anything, and it's like, oh no, how are they going to survive? Well, there's this really weird thing that happens out of the many weird things that happens. And to me, the hint that I got, they made up this thing where these zombies are like ghost zombies. I don't know how that works. And I mean, I don't think there's no such thing as a ghost zombie. They'd just be like demons. You just call them demons or something. Like they're not, you can't be a ghost and a zombie at the same time unless you're like crazy. Has anyone ever seen a movie where a ghost zombie has worked, unless it's like some crappy sci-fi original movie? Like that's what it makes me think of. But they have this theory that they get energy from the concrete, and so they make it on purpose to where their tires melt off, and then I guess it's hinted at that they make this telephone in a telephone booth. They make this random telephone start working up again with their ghost energy, so that they can get the police to come there. And the police from the local town, they're evil and corrupt, and they killed the chain gang, and it was all their fault, of course. And nobody saw that coming. And so it was kind of like just a big trap. It was just a big trap that the ghosts set, and so that they could get all these people there and kill them. So, the plot that I'm describing, it sounds like it should be a really, really good movie. But instead, you get this next big chunk of the movie where nothing happens. And they're just talking and talking and talking and talking. And just these little things here and there. And I was like... like, at a certain point... Like, you guys see what I mean? Like, just thinking about it, I'm already getting tired again. Even though I wasn't tired and bored watching the movie... but I was about to become tired and bored if the movie went longer than an hour and 30 minutes, which thankfully it didn't. So they're just standing there and talking, And then finally, another person is killed. That was another great death with a sledgehammer, and then he gets dragged off screen. And then after that, the police come, and they basically take everyone hostage, all of these federal agents and things. And that was the part that really weirded me out, was because I didn't really understand why the sheriff and his deputies, why they just come in there and they treat these people like terrorists or something, and they kill one of the agents, they kill the other woman agent, and they want to kill all of them, I guess. And it's like, why? Like, even after the movie is over, I still don't understand what they were doing. So Lou Diamond Phillips is the only one who is undetected. And by the way, before all that, Lou Diamond Phillips just randomly runs into a shaman, and they like sit together in a cave and have coffee. And you know what this movie would have been better as? An episode of the X-Files. Like, I know that sounds like kind of shitty to say, but it probably would have been better. Like, if I've said this movie has felt like a lot of things, and it's really just my way of like relating the feelings that I had of like, you guys know what I felt during this, so this is what it reminded me of. Well, it did remind me of like, what if they did an X-Files spin-off starring Mr. X? And maybe he's playing a new character, and he's this person who's going to be like the main focus of the series, even though he's like a former mafia accountant. And then maybe you could have the police element, instead of them being the main focus, they could be almost like side characters, and it would be all about Route 666 and the exploration of this area, and like, people go missing there. And that's one of the things, is that like, even though this landscape is really pretty, it's really scary too, because not only do you have scorpions, you have all these animals that could kill you, but people go missing out there all the time. And you never find their bodies, you never find out what happens to them, and that in and of itself is just scary. And so you could really just do a whole show just based around like solving the mysteries of Route 666. Like, in fact, that could have been the plot. They could have said like, we'd like to reopen that route. We would like to make this a hopping place again for people to drive down. And then you could have had Mr. X brought in to investigate, like, is this place safe? What's going on here? That would have been much better. So what happens though is that Lou Diamond Phillips, he gets into one of the police cars. He causes this kind of distraction where you think that he's driving one of them, but he's driving the other one, or he's in the back seat of the other one. And then the deputy gets in that one, and already I kind of got pissed off with that, because it was another terrible plot decision where Lou Diamond Phillips purposefully shoots out the tires of the car in front of him, just so that he can cause a diversion to make all the other people think that he got killed being shot by the other policeman. And so I thought that was stupid, because they need a way out of there. They need food, they need water, and he purposefully destroys another vehicle. And then they take the police vehicle back, that other one back, and we get another couple of kills. And all the people just kind of get eliminated by these zombies until Lou Diamond Phillips makes this decision where he does something, and his dad actually recognizes that it's him, and he turns on his fellow zombies. and he starts killing his own like zombie friends. And I thought that that was amazing because it reminded me a lot of the Mortal Kombat live action movie where they did the same thing, but what if they did that and they did it good? You know, like what if they treated that storyline well? I really like that a lot. I was really happy that that happened because I just kind of expected for them to just run away from them, run away from the zombies as the zombies killed the sheriff and the deputies. Because the deputies and the sheriff, they became like the main villains of the movie. And it was so weird and out of nowhere because you think, why did they want to kill them? Like, it's basically to cover up or something, or I don't know. Like, it's something to do with, like, the past with them being corrupt and killing the chain gang. But it didn't really make much sense since they're federal agents and everything, and it's like, how are they going to cover that up? So I really love that, though. The dad zombie, he turns on everyone, he kills everyone. It's amazing. It's epic. It's some of the greatest killing I've seen all year in film. It's some of the... I really love the way the zombies look. I love the way they act. The only thing that I don't like is that whenever these zombies come on screen, the camera starts shaking around a little bit. It's not really like a shakiness. It's like the camera is shifting around. Like it shift, 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 shift. Like, you know, like just constantly shifting, like just, it's so strange, and it feels like almost like it's like a style. It's like trying to, because it only happens when the zombies come on screen. And it's like, is this really necessary? I don't know. I thought that was kind of goofy. And then the movie ends on kind of like a weird note, because the movie ends with the main three, you know, the three people you knew who were going to survive. They're walking down the road. And, oh yeah, because I forgot to mention, the last police car, it also got shot up and destroyed. And so they can't use that anymore either. And it's like, they really just, like, so they don't have any food, they don't have any water, they don't have any car to get out of there. They're just going to walk down this road. And it's weird too because, since the zombie ghosts are gone, all of a sudden Route 666 is a safe place? Like, that's kind of like a flop. Like, you'd expect a place like Route 666. You'd expect there to be like infinite dangers. And that was another thing that I kind of felt like was that instead of just focusing on the chain gang, they should have just made this place crazy, balls to the wall, haunted. They should have had like zombie dogs. They should have had like blood that rains out of the sky and it's like acid rain or blood acid rain or something. Like, they should have had a lot more stuff going on. But as it stands, I would say that this is a pretty good movie because I did criticize a lot, but all of those critiques, they're not really that bad critiques. Like, I really had to kind of scrape a little bit in terms of, you know, if you just kind of sat there and let yourself enjoy the movie, you really wouldn't have many problems with it. Like, you'd just kind of be like, it's pretty good. And so for that, I think the perfect rating for this movie, and by the way, Mr. X gets a couple of good kills too. He picks up a shotgun and he just mows down these corrupt police. And I thought that was great too, because it's like one of the only things he gets to do in the whole movie. And I was kind of wondering, like, is he going to get to do anything in this movie besides just make smart alecky remarks while Lou Diamond Phillips does everything. But I would give this movie a Papa John's slice of cheese pizza. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily great. Papa John's pizza is notorious for having crust that tastes like cardboard. And when you have a cheese pizza from Papa John's, it's just kind of like it's there. Like it's like, this is okay. I could eat it, but it's not really the greatest thing ever. So that's what I would rate this movie. It's like it is the ultimate definition of a slice of cheese pizza, which isn't bad. It's not a bad thing at all. In fact, I would definitely watch this movie again. And I would just say though, I saw on IMDb that like the director, he doesn't even make movies anymore, and I really wished after watching this movie, I thought, oh, I hope that I can watch other movies of his where he tried to improve after this, but no, like he hasn't really done much of anything, and so I think that that's sad because he has a really cool aesthetic and style to the way he makes movies. And I thought, in terms of looking at this as like a small budget, small movie, he did a good job for what he had. Like, he really did manage what he had well in comparison to like some of these movies like Amityville Karen. Oh, what a terrible movie. So please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of this movie. There's a lot more I could have talked about too. So many great things about this movie and so many funny things too. Just a lot of like funny little quirky things. And then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye everybody, see you soon.